right. We. It looks like we are live. Um, if there's anybody in the chat who can hear my voice clearly, please say so. Please type so in the chat because it's been a hell of a trial and error process with getting the audio in these streams just right. Leozoic, good to see you again, bud. How you been doing? No, it's been a while since I did a stream last, and it's been a while since I even uploaded a video last. Um, that's just, that's just life getting in the way. There is another thing as well that I may be doing that may also occupy my time. Nikifor Shirobokov. That is a really awesome sounding name. Hello. Are you Russian by any chance? Be cool having a viewer in Russia. How are you doing today, Tovarich? You can hear me? Cool. I'm glad. Glad my voice is coming in fine. I'm going to try to keep my microphone at this exact distance from my mouth so that this exact distance so there's no like popping sounds, because I remember watching one of my older streams where I had the mic exactly like this, and every time I made a P sound with my mouth, like you could hear the mic popping. It drove me nuts after a while. So that's not something I want to do. Yes, you're Russian. Okay, awesome, man. It's cool to hear that. I hope that, not to sort of get into into politics, but I hope the political situation in Russia is not having any super adverse effects on your life. So, opinions on The Wicker Man, the original 1973 version, not the Nicolas Cage version. I've seen the original 1973 Wicker Man. I think it's great. I really, really enjoy it. I love the atmosphere of that film. I love the music in that film as well. Although, I think it's a bit of a stretch to call the original Wicker Man a horror film. I mean, it definitely becomes a horror film in the last 10 minutes, but through the rest of the film, it's basically like a police thriller. There's not a whole lot scary that happens throughout that film. It is a really good film, though, without a doubt. And all the really good-looking naked girls, also a plus in that film as well. Do you like any classical literature like Hunchback of Notre Dame or Fathers and Sons? Yes. I absolutely love classical literature. I listen to a lot of audiobooks while I'm at the gym. When I'm working out or jogging, I'll have the Audible app open on my phone, and I'll just listen to I'll listen to just about any book I want. I really like science fiction, old fantasy, classic horror, sort of swashbuckling adventure type stuff as well. As far as classical literature, I probably haven't read as much classical literature as I would like to. I've read a fair amount of stuff that Jules Verne's written. Like I've read The Island of Dr. Moreau. I've read War of the Worlds, and I read The Time Machine, which has become one of my favorite books. And the 1960 George Pal movie version of The Time Machine is also one of my favorite movies. It's probably one of the most faithful book to movie adaptations you will ever watch. So, highly, highly recommend it. Let's see. Thoughts on the two upcoming kaiju projects Godzilla Minus One and Gamera Rebirth. Those are both on Netflix, if I recall correctly. And the thing is, I don't have Netflix. Okay, Godzilla Minus One be released in Japan November 3rd, USA December 1st. Oh! Okay, so if it's being released in the US in December, I that might mean that there'll be a Fathom event screening for that. Because over here, where I live, the theaters here, they have this thing called Fathom events where they screen all kinds of sort of out of the ordinary, sort of non-mainstream films. Like they stream a lot of old classic movies. They stream a lot of foreign films. You know, stuff that sort of hardcore movie lovers enjoy. I remember when me and my buddy moved down here all the way back in 2016. That's when Shin Godzilla came out, and they showed that at the theater, and he and I both went to see that through the Fathom event thing. So I'm guessing it'll probably that new Godzilla film will be screened here um, through that. So that's cool. I always I really like the new sort of surge of tokusatsu, like big budget tokusatsu films that are coming out of Japan. Like I saw Shin Ultraman earlier this year and I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. They also showed Shin Kamen Rider, which I was sadly not able to see, but I do have it on my watch list for sure. Gamera Rebirth will be released on Netflix. Yeah, that's a shame because I don't have Netflix and I'm never going to renew my Netflix account. Have you read any philosophy like Plato's Republic? No, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm a bit ignorant when it comes to philosophy. I'm familiar with a couple philosophical concepts. Like I'm vaguely familiar with Ayn Rand's objectivism. It's that whole belief, kind of that the world we all live in is sort of there's no concrete objective world that we all live in. It's all kind of subjective or something like that. It I think probably to somebody who's like an expert in philosophy that sounds like a really dumb infantile like layman's summary of objectivism, but that's my best way of putting it. Yeah, especially the cutie situation. Yeah, I cancel my Netflix for a good deal more than just cuties. I honestly, I mean, Cuties was definitely a contributing factor, but beyond that, just everything I was seeing from Netflix just did not appeal to me. And it just wasn't good. Because, like, I feel like Netflix is so unbelievably obsessed with quantity over quality. Like, they just have so many of these projects coming out that are just they're just so low quality in terms of writing, in terms of direction, and in terms of just like visual fidelity as well. Like there was a I remember seeing like clips from this one Tekken anime that was released on Netflix, and I looked at it. It looked like shit. It looked bad because it was one of those like 3D animes, and the fight scenes literally looked like they were like 3D rotoscoped from people playing the actual Tekken games. Like it looked like they took the character models from the show and used like a hacked like rig of the characters in the game to actually animate the characters in the show. It looked so cheap and so shitty. And I was just like, I can't watch this. This is awful. This is ass. And on top of that, like Netflix shows have probably some of the worst like pacing. They have some of the worst story pacing of any media that exists. Because like I think some of the Marvel Netflix shows were really bad about this. They would just have like multiple episodes happening where nothing of any significance takes place. There's no progression of the story. There's not even much character progression that's happening. It's just filler. And it's there because the Netflix executives are insanely strict about what they're really strict about like the episode counts for each season of each show that comes out. So the writers and the directors and all the people involved, they're forced to make all this filler and just put it in the show just so they can justify having 13-hour-long episodes. And I just got tired of it. Because it just resulted in shows that were insanely just boring to watch half the time. Hey, Candlestick. How's it going, bud? Good to see you join. Let's see. Fancast idea. Jennifer Connelly is Star Sapphire. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Ernest Borgnine. Ernest Borgnine is Harvey Bullock. Yeah, I'm picturing it. I can't really take it seriously. I mean, no offense, but I think you would need somebody who's a bit more, I guess, a bit less comedic looking for Harvey Bullock. Because I look at Ernest Borgnine and I just want to laugh. Like he has one of those funny looking faces, I guess. Peter O'Toole as Captain Marvel. That is an interesting choice. Peter O'Toole, he would have to bulk up a shit ton because, from what I recall, he was a pretty tall, skinny guy. Danielle Harris's death. Oh God, I'm trying to remember who Danielle Harris is. Frank Welker is Shumagorath. Yep, I can definitely see him doing the voice of Shumagorath. What is your favorite superhero origin story? I like Batman Earth 1 Volume 1 and Frank Miller's Daredevil Man Without Fear. Oh. I don't know if I have a favorite. I remember Denny O'Neil and Dick Giordano wrote in the late 80s, they wrote a Batman comic that was a really that was an incredibly well done sort of retelling of Batman's origin. Like obviously it details his parents getting shot, but it also puts a lot of detail into like the years that he was training to become Batman. And that comic, I believe it's called The Man Who Falls or something like that. It was one of the main. It was one of the comics that was the primary basis for the first Nolan film, Batman Begins. There's a lot of stuff from that comic that was put into Batman Begins. I really like the Wonder Woman post-crisis Gods and Monsters series that George Perez wrote and drew. I thought that was really awesome. So 3D animation from late 90s. Yeah, that's probably what those 3D animes on Netflix remind me of. Nick, hey man, how's it going? Long time no see. Netflix 13 episode formula, full of filler. Yep, that's exactly right. Fancast idea 2. Christina Hendricks as Poison Ivy. Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. She would definitely be I think she would be quite a she would be a very curvaceous, an extra curvaceous version of Poison Ivy. Let's just put it that way. Steve McQueen is Ghost Rider. Oh, I think that could work actually. I think Steve McQueen could have been an awesome Ghost Rider. I think if he grew his hair out a bit more and he got a bit more rugged, then yeah, I think he could definitely be an awesome Ghost Rider. John Belushi as Bouncing Boy. I'm not familiar with that character. Chloe Grace Moretz as Stephanie Brown. Uh, you know, oh, Stephanie. You know, when I heard you say Stephanie Brown, when I saw Stephanie Brown, for some reason I was thinking of Cassandra Cain. I guess she could be okay as Stephanie Brown. Chiaki Kuriyama as Cassandra Cain. Okay. I'm not familiar with that actress, but has she done a lot of action movies? I'm just curious. Ghost Rider 3, Ride Faster. uh, what if the Suicide Squad was sent to Genosha to receive Magneto's helmet for Amanda Waller? Will they succeed? I'm going to go with a no on that one. Oh, wait, Genosha. Oh, God. I'm not sure. When you said Genosha, I was thinking of that other island from the X-Men comics that was an entire living creature. I think that was called Krakoa, I believe, not Genosha. That would be an interesting Marvel DC crossover, though. Danielle Harris, the actress who played Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5. Oh. Oh, okay. Was she the young girl who was Michael Myers' niece? Sony presents The Amazing Spider-Man 3, another sequel with too many characters and stories. Yeah, Sony loves overstuffing their Spider-Man films. That is for sure. Good. Still got my YouTube channel and make lots of videos. Yeah, that's good to hear, man. Have your videos been has your audience been growing? Have your videos sort of you've been changing them up any? I'm curious to see what type of progress your channel's made. How would you feel about a Batman Beyond game set decades after the events of Arkham Knight? I think that could work very well. Although the main stickler for that is they would have to find a different voice for Bruce Wayne since tragically Kevin Conroy is no longer with us. God, dude, I remember hearing that news a few months back and it didn't feel real, man. Holy crap. She's Myers' niece. Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember how cringe Halloween 4 and 5 were, where they established that Michael needed to Michael needed to have sex with his niece. Oh God, that was horrible, man. Have 249 subs. Okay, that's pretty good. 249. Yes, the younger. Oh, wait, I read that already. Fox's Unmade X Men Origins Magneto equals X Men meets the pianist in Schindler's List. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that movie never got made. I mean, it basically became that X Men First Class film, if I remember correctly. Have you seen the movie The Accountant? I've heard of it, never seen it. Isn't that the movie where Ben Affleck plays like an autistic hitman or something? Do you prefer Joker to have an origin story, Killing Joke, or the 2019 film, or having no origin? Um, I think I prefer Joker to have no definitive origin. I think Killing Joke is the closest thing we have to a definitive origin, but the the story still makes it clear that that may not even be the definitive origin for the Joker. Um, the 2019 film, I just view that as an alternate universe take on the character. I think it's a very good alternate universe take on the character for sure. But I'm not going to say it's like the definitive origin for the character. You've seen The Accountant. Oh, yeah? Is it good? Halloween 4 and 5, The Incest Saga. Yeah. You want my honest to God opinion? They should have continued where the trend that Halloween 3 started to make. And that they should have just had like an anthology series. Halloween 4 should have been like a whole different story. They should never ever have brought back Michael Myers. How would you make a Batman Beyond version of Spider-Man? A new Spider-Man for the future. Peter Parker is old and in a retirement home, now married to Mary Jane, has a daughter with powers. Hmm. Well, I think wouldn't Spider-Man 2099 kind of be a Batman Beyond equivalent? I mean, I know like Miguel O'Hara, he's not like Peter's apprentice or anything, but it's definitely kind of like the futuristic, like cyberpunk version of Spider-Man. Um, wouldn't there have been comics that have shown Peter as an old man? I remember reading one. I think it was called Spider-Man Life Story, where it starts all the way from the '60s, where Peter's a teenager and he actually ages in real time. Like it starts all the way from the '60s and it ends in the modern day, where Peter's like 70 years old, I think. I actually enjoyed that comic quite a bit. So I think the idea of like futuristic age Spider-Man has been done well already. So who do you think is more dangerous as a villain, the Joker or Bullseye? Um, I guess you know what? Nah, I'm gonna go with Bullseye because I think that I think the Joker somewhat has limits based on a few comics I've read. Bullseye though, he's a total psycho. He doesn't have any limits. There's no low he won't stoop to. Halloween 3 is meant to be the start of an anthology series. Yeah, yeah, that's true. A bunch of people poo-pooed Halloween 3 because there was no Michael Myers, which is a shame because I liked Halloween 3 quite a bit. Thought that movie had some really solid horror bits in it. And you also can't forget that ending. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Tom Atkins going full ham on that telephone. Yeah, it's good. My dad and I went to go see it. My dad got tickets for it for being part of the Natural Group of Accountants. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing when the movie came out. Don't forget Spider-Man Reign. Yeah, that is another story that deals with sort of an elderly Peter Parker, isn't it? Who's Batman love more, Catwoman or Talia al Ghul? Um, that that is a hard question to answer. I would probably go with Catwoman because some of the recent stuff they've done with Talia has been pretty questionable. Like I remember hearing that there was a recent DC reboot where so I remember reading that some writer changed the circumstances around Damien's birth to where, like, instead of like Talia and Bruce like just having a passionate night of sex together, instead Talia basically drugs and rapes Bruce, and that's how she becomes pregnant with Damien. So hearing that, that's kind of soured my opinion on Talia al Ghul quite a bit. I don't know what DC. I don't know what this thing is DC has about making some of their like male characters into rape victims because this isn't even the first time this has happened. Like, you know how many times Nightwing has been raped by a female supervillain? It's happened an uncomfortable amount of times. Like it's especially questionable because I'm positive that all the writers who make these decisions, they would be super up in arms if the same thing was happening to a female character. So, a lot of hypocrisy going on in that department. All right, what else we got here? Fox's Unmade, Joe Carnahan's Daredevil trilogy, Daredevil 73, Daredevil 77 and 83, 70s and 80s period piece street level Daredevil trilogy. That actually sounds awesome. I would love to have seen that. That sounds like it would be cool as fuck. Hell yeah, man. God, and imagine that last film. It probably would have delved super deep into the Frank Miller stuff as well. Do you think the Court of Owls could work for a third Robert Pattinson film? Um, Maybe. I think before they go with the Court of Owls, I think they should probably feature some villains who have kind of not really been done well in live action before. Like maybe for the second movie they should do Hush. Maybe for the third movie they should have Mr. Freeze. Maybe get an actual suitable actor for Mr. Freeze and incorporate his tragic backstory and all of that. Because I don't like the fact that when most people think of Mr. Freeze, they think of Schwarzenegger's insanely goofy performance in Batman and Robin. How would you make a Wonder Woman animated series? Would you use some villains from a rogues gallery? Would you create new ones? Yeah, I'd probably try to use as many of her comic book villains as possible. I think if I were to do it, I would pull as much from the George Perez series as much as possible because honestly, like George Perez's reboot is probably the best series of comics I've read to actually feature Wonder Woman in them. I would have Ares in there, give him his classic like blue armor and helmet, and his red eyes. It would be badass as fuck. WB originally wanted the DC movie universe set in the Nolan universe with Nolan as executive producer like Marvel's Kevin Feige. Does any of that make sense with the tone and world they set up? Not really. I think that's what they were trying to do with Man of Steel because Nolan was a producer on that film, if I remember correctly. But I mean, Man of Steel was dark, but it felt dark in a very different way that Nolan's Batman films felt dark. I think Man of Steel and both Batman v Superman, like I felt like they could be horror movies if you took out all the superhero shit from them. Like they could just be like sort of hyper edgy, sort of shitty like early to mid 2000s horror movies. Especially with their visual styles, just how stupidly high contrast and like oversaturated they look. Let's see. Then again, DC always has bad retcons, like how they made Adam Strange a war criminal. Really? That's a thing? Make Tim Drake bisexual? Yep. Yep. Yeah, make Tim Drake into dudes as well, even though there's absolutely been no indication throughout his entire existence that he's ever been interested in dudes. Yeah. How would you make a Godzilla trilogy? Which kaijus would you include, and what tone would it be? Hmm. That's a good question. I think if I were to do it, me personally, I would not introduce any original kaiju. I would try to sort of make modern day, up to date versions of like all the classic Toho creatures. I think what I would do. Oh, I know exactly what I would do. First of all, I would probably ditch the modern day setting. I would actually like to set it in the original time period, like in the 50s or the 60s. I think that would make it more interesting. And I think that would heighten the stakes quite a bit. Because I think one of the things that makes the original 54 Godzilla so engaging is the fact that this is a movie made in the 50s and you know, you have this post World War II Japan with kind of a rundown, uh, kind of mess of an economy that's, not very developed, that's all of a sudden pitted against this giant indestructible friggin' nuclear dinosaur. Kind of makes them like an underdog in that sense. So I think I would probably, if I were to make a new set of Godzilla movies, I would probably have them all be period pieces. I would probably make the tone suitably dark, and I would also try to bring back a lot of lesser known kaiju, probably like Varan, probably like who else? I think I would go with Baragon as well, Gorosaurus as well. Kind of reimagine all the old school classic monsters, but still like make them resemble what they used to. Sorry, I went off on that question for a while. Let's see. Do you think Ra's al Ghul would see Daredevil as a potential successor for the League of Assassins? Maybe. I don't know. Do you think Ra's al Ghul would accept a blind man to lead his army of super ninjas? That's actually an interesting question. I'm not sure. Well, actually, now that I think about it, would Ra's al Ghul let Daredevil use his Lazarus Pit to cure his blindness? Because I'm pretty sure the Lazarus Pit like cures all types of physical ailments. I don't see why that wouldn't include like permanent blindness as well. But at the same time, I feel like if Daredevil lost his blindness, all of his other senses would just be thrown way off as well. So I'm not sure. That's an interesting conundrum. Zack Snyder's horror fetish. Yep. Agreed 100%. I mean, you got Batman branding people with his batarangs. Got got what else? You got Lex Luthor friggin' cutting his hand open and bleeding all over the dead Zod's face. I distinctly remember this one moment in Batman v Superman where Lex Luthor was like, he had all these photographs of Martha Kent's face, and her face looked all mutilated and just beaten and bloodied, and it looked horrifying. And he just threw them right at Superman's feet, and that's what made Superman just start to lose his cool, and he got this close to kind of just torching a hole in Luthor's chest. I just remember seeing that and thinking, why is a movie with Batman and Superman this needlessly fucking edgy? The Adam Strange one I'm referring to is Tom King. I assume that's supposed to say Tom King. Oh my god, yeah. I've heard really awful things about Tom King. That guy's kind of a scumbag from what I've heard. Like I remember reading that what was that? Who's that one guy? Oh, it was Ethan Van Sciver. He hired this one artist to draw one of his independent comics, and Tom King basically sort of just harassed that guy nonstop on Twitter and said all this, just spread all these lies and rumors about his personal life. And it kind of ended up harming the guy's personal life. And like Tom King never took any, like, he never took any accountability for that. So, yeah. DC basically made Tim Drake's Robin and Connor Kent's Superboy gay jokes and fan art from the 2000s canon. Yeah. exactly. Tom King, yeah, yeah, it's all good. Neozoic. I knew who you're talking about. So, how would X Men Evolution handle Emma Frost? Would she be a good character to introduce in the series? Um, yeah, I think so. I mean, so long as they do away with the immensely cringe love triangle between her, Cyclops, and Jean Grey, that would have just been awful. I remember that just being so incredibly obnoxious and cringe in the comic books that I read. Who would win, Cobra from DC or Hydra from Marvel? Interesting. They're pretty similar, like evil organizations, aren't they? I think I would go with Hydra mainly because they got some pretty heavy hitting supervillains on their team. Like they got Baron Strucker. I think Zemo was a part of Hydra at one point. Red Skull as well. What if Christopher Nolan directed a Daredevil movie? I would hope he would try to keep it simple. Because I don't know why. Christopher Nolan, he's a good director, but it feels like he makes his movies overtly complex just for the sake of making them complex. Like, my roommate and I went to see Oppenheimer, newest Chris Nolan film that came out. Really good movie, but if I had to if I had to make one criticism of it, it would be the structure. Like the first act of Oppenheimer is all over the place. Like structure wise, it just felt like it was just jumping all around. It became incredibly difficult for me to follow. It got a lot better once they started showing all the Manhattan Project stuff. Once Oppenheimer was in New Mexico and actually started building the atom bomb and all that. But the first act was a bit rough to get through. It was it was really confusing when I felt like it didn't really need to be. So I think if Chris Nolan can just learn to keep his scripts and his narratives like more straightforward, I think he can do amazing stuff. Just somebody needs to tell him not every movie he makes needs to be like Memento. Alex Beyond. Hey, what's up? You're a new viewer of mine, it looks like. Candlestick. If Lex Luthor hired Deadpool to kill Superman armed with kryptonite katanas, by the way, he hits on Mercy Graves. Well, yeah, obviously. Would Deadpool succeed in taking down Superman? That's a hard question. I'm not sure because I think Superman would he'd be pretty cautious around a guy with a pair of kryptonite infused swords. But I don't know. Maybe Deadpool could take that fight. Unless Superman has like his kryptonite hazmat suit on. In which case, yeah, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't put my money on Deadpool. I remember. I don't know if this is a thing in the comics, but I do remember the '90s animated series. Superman had like a kryptonite hazmat suit that he would wear when he was fighting people like Metallo and when he was confronting Lex when Lex was trying to take him down with his little kryptonite rock. Who is your favorite kaiju from the Gamera movies besides Gamera himself? I think I'd probably go with the Legion from the second '90s movie, Advent of Legion. I thought that movie was awesome, and those creatures were really, really cool. They were really creepy. Aren't the X Men getting a new '90s cartoon? Yeah, I remember reading something about Disney is trying to greenlight a whole new season of the '90s X Men cartoon, which I find to be very strange because obviously that cartoon was like from 30 years ago. So if you were to bring back all of the old voice actors, they would all sound 30 years older, and it would be incredibly, incredibly distracting. Like I actually, I actually met a couple of the voice actors from the '90s show. Like I met Cal Dodd, and I met George Buza, who was the voice of Beast. Uh, George Buza, a really nice, cool guy, by the way, but uh, he doesn't sound like he did back then. I met these. I met them at a Comic Con in my state, by the way, in case you guys are wondering how I met these the '90s X Men actors. Cal Dodd was really awesome. He was a really really sweet and friendly guy. I mean, if I were to guess, I would say maybe Disney's gonna include a bunch of modern day characters from the X Men comics into the new season. I don't know. Let's see. Which origin of Hawkman and Hawkgirl did you prefer? Mm, I like the idea of Hawkman being sort of a reincarnated, um, like Egyptian alien warrior. I think that's a cool idea. Same for Hawkgirl as well. Do you prefer PlayStation or Xbox? I don't really have a preference. I think both systems have really awesome exclusives that I prefer not to be without. I think I definitely have issues and grievances with like Sony and Microsoft for sure. Christopher Nolan's obsession of being pretentious for the sake of studio intellectualism and Oscar bait. Mm, I'm not sure if I would call it being pretentious on Nolan's part. I mean, okay, yeah, there's probably a bit of pretentiousness going on, but I think there's filmmakers that are a lot worse in the pretentious department than Nolan is. Opinions on the 1977 horror film The Sentinel. I haven't seen that film in a while. I remember liking it a lot. It's a pretty underrated, really creepy, old school horror movie. I need to watch it again because I remember liking it quite a bit. And there's something about sort of gothic, sort of haunted house 70s horror films that hits a lot different. I remember watching the Amityville Horror, the original last year, and that movie was really good. A big reason why that movie was so good, I feel, was mainly because of the location they chose. My God, that house is creepy. Absolutely creepy ass house. It's also interesting to see like all the similarities that film has to The Shining, even though it predates both the book and the film by a couple of years. The 90s X-Men Cyclops voice actor died pre-COVID. Damn, that sucks. Opinions on Damian Wayne, Helena Wayne. I'm not a big fan of Damian Wayne. Helena Wayne, she was one of the Batwomen, right? Don't really know much about her. What's your ideal Superman family? I'd probably go with just Superman, uh, his adopted mom and dad. Maybe have Steel, John Henry Irons in there, and Supergirl. Maybe all those robot servants of his at the Fortress of Solitude. I think after that, we're good. I think we're good. Unless you count like the Daily Planet characters like Lois, Jimmy, Perry White, Cat Grant, and all of them. Oh, she was the Huntress. Okay. Yeah, I don't really know anything about her. Have you heard of Crime and Punishment by Fyodor? Oh, you mean Dostoevsky? Fyodor Dostoevsky? Yeah, I've heard of that book. I know there was a Kurosawa film that was adapted from that book as well. I think it was also called Crime and Punishment. I've not seen that film or read the book, but yeah, I'm familiar with some of Dostoevsky's work. Would you like a long Halloween-style Superman story about Superman's Rogues Gallery? Yeah, I would. I would like it to be done well, though, so that, people can see just how good most of Superman's other villains are, for sure, yeah. Oh. Opinions on The French Connection. I've seen it. It's very good. Has probably one of the most awesome car chase scenes in any film. Gene Hackman's really awesome in it. It's one of those really good, gritty 70s crime films. I like it a lot. And it's a William Friedkin movie I enjoy quite a bit. A lot more than The Exorcist. Terrence Malick's movies during the 2010s are almost a parody with how pretentious they are. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, I couldn't make it through Tree of Life. That movie was a pretty good insomnia cure. Who would win? Helena Bertinelli / Huntress versus Silver Sable. I think that depends which version of Silver Sable. If it's the one from the 2018 Spider-Man game, it would probably be Silver Sable because that version of the character was just insanely powerful and strong for no reason. I'm not going to lie, they kind of Mary Sued the hell out of Silver Sable in the 2018 Spider-Man game. There's a lot of really questionable writing decisions made with her, especially with the fact that in that game story, she brings her entire mercenary army to New York, and then towards the end of the game story, she leaves, and she leaves her mercenary army behind in New York. And then in some of the DLC missions, she comes back, and when criminals like pillage the weapons and technology from her army, she blames Spider-Man for that. What fucking sense does that make? So if it was a really terribly written version of Silver Sable, she'd probably win. If it was a well-written Huntress versus a well-written Silver Sable, I'd probably say it's an even matchup. I think maybe Silver Sable might have better technology. Thoughts on Sony's Venom franchise? Take them or leave them. They're kind of mindless. They're very mindless kind of B movies in a sense. Do you think it's lame that they kind of teased Tom Hardy's Venom entering the MCU, and then all of a sudden they just did nothing with that? I thought that was incredibly lame and disappointing. How would you make a Spider-Man trilogy? What rogues gallery would you include? How would you end it? Um, hmm. You know what I would probably I think I would have both Green Goblin and Hobgoblin. I think I would try to make a more straightforward and condensed, streamlined version of the Hobgoblin's origin story. Because I like Hobgoblin, I think he's a cool villain, but he suffers from like just having kind of behind the scenes. He's had way too many writers in the kitchen trying to revamp and retcon his origin. So that's kind of the reason he hasn't been featured in a whole lot of stuff. So I would try to fix Hobgoblin in a new Spider-Man trilogy. Do you think people say a book is better than a movie adaptation because in a book the writer doesn't have to leave out plot points? Hmm. I think maybe, but at the same time, you kind of have to ask yourself if a movie is adapted from a book and a movie leaves out plot points from the book, were the plot points in the book really that important, or of were they of any value in the first place? I think there's some movies that have streamlined the books they adapted, probably for the better. So I can understand something like Lord of the Rings or Dune, where a lot of stuff is left out. Yeah, I can definitely understand why people prefer the books. And I think in a lot of ways I also do. Opinions on 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. Love it. Absolutely love it. The cool thing about that book is that you get two stories in one, essentially. You get the original short story that Clarke wrote, which is The Sentinel, which tells the story of that the ape Moonwatcher who discovers how to use that bone. And obviously, you get the rest of the story, concerning humans discovering the monolith on the moon and the Discovery's mission to Jupiter. A lot of stuff. It's interesting. Even though the book served sort of as a treatment for the movie, there's still a pretty good amount of differences between the two. So if you like the movie, I also recommend reading the book because it's not like reading the book is like a redundant experience after watching the movie. There's quite a lot of stuff that's different about the two. Comics being adapted for film, streamlined and condensed for casual general audiences. True. I think that can be a strength though, because sometimes comic books are insanely convoluted because of because of all kinds of like editorial drama and a bunch of writers clashing who have different ideas and kind of a too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. It really depends. For example, Kubrick's 2001 keeps it more mysterious. Clark's novel has more explanation. Yeah, true. It does. But you kind of see some events play out a bit differently in Clark's book. Do you think Superman, Captain America, and Barry Allen are the most noble comic book heroes? Superman and Captain America for sure. Barry Allen, I'm not sure. I don't know about Barry Allen. And again, I'm not much of an expert on the Flash, so maybe maybe that might be good. Would you like to see a DC animated movie based on Kingdom Come? That could be interesting. I'm not sure how they would replicate Alex Ross's art into animation. I think maybe they should not try to do that because it feels like some of these animated films have been trying to sort of adapt the art style of the artists into an animated format, and it just doesn't seem to work very well. Like from the clips I've seen of the Long Halloween movie, it felt like they were trying to do an animated version of Tim Sale's artwork, and it just looked weird. It looked very strange. Also, yeah, I'm just a bit unsure about a Kingdom Come adaptation in general, mainly because I have kind of a sour opinion of Mark Waid as well. So yeah, I'm not sure. Barry Allen ruins the entire timeline for his mommy. Yeah. Yep, he sure did. Favorite Super Sentai seasons? I've been collecting the Shout Factory Sentai DVD sets. I've been trying to at least because they're a bit on the expensive side, but I think so far from what I've seen, I really liked Ranger. I like God, Die Ranger. Die Ranger, that's what it's called. I watched all of Die Ranger. That series was awesome. I think I'd probably go with Die Ranger so far, but I've kind of a limited exposure to Super Sentai. I need to watch more of it. Alex Ross's art adapted only works in 3D CGI animated. Yeah, but I don't think even 3D animation would look right, or I don't even think 3D animation would do his art style justice. Mm. If Batman Nightfall got an animated film, would it have to be split in three parts? Yeah, it would have to be split in three parts, and I think they should probably rewrite Jean Paul Valley's character a good bit. Give him like a better reason to kind of go crazy the way he did in that series. Because I don't know, it felt like John Paul Valley becoming like super violent and psychopathic just kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, I would be open to the idea of a Batman Nightfall film. Definitely. Oh, if they also did that, one thing they would have to remove is probably Bruce's romance with that doctor, Chandra Kinsolving, I believe her name was. because man, the climax they gave to that story was so retarded. Oh my god, it was so bad. So I'm just gonna explain it for you in context. So after Bruce gets his back broken by Bane, he falls in love with this doctor. Her name is Chandra Consolving. She starts operating on him, trying to fix his back. And then she gets kidnapped by these terrorist guys. Bruce and Alfred go to England while Jean Paul Valley takes over the mantle of Batman. Bruce and Alfred, they track her down. And then it turns out that all of a sudden, she's telepathic. And she uses her mind to kill the terrorists and fix Bruce's broken spine. Just comes out of nowhere. If they omitted that from the movie, I would not complain. Because that was retarded. That was dumb. That was absolutely horrible writing. Favorite Spider-Man love interest? I would have to go with... Maybe, I think I would have to go with Black Cat or Mary Jane. Hal Jordan played by James Marsden. Maybe. I could see it. I don't know. Would James Marsden do a good job playing sort of a really cocky, arrogant test pilot? Opinions on these 3 DC animated films. Batman Under the Red Hood, great, love it. Green Lantern First Flight, love it. Wonder Woman 2009, kind of indifferent on. Superman versus the Elite, loved it. Fantastic. I would say Superman versus the Elite's one of the best Superman movies ever, animated or live action. Death of Superman should have been a trilogy or 4 films. Yeah, I can see that. Wonder Woman more noble than the Flash? Yeah, for sure. As long as she has a decent writer who's not trying to push any type of shitty man-hating agenda. Who's your favorite non-DC Marvel comic book hero? Oh, that's an easy one. Hellboy. Without hesitation, I would go with Hellboy. Hellboy's probably my favorite comic, period. Not just like non-DC or Marvel. Absolutely love Hellboy. Like in recent years, I've just read every single all the Hellboy stories sort of in chronological order multiple times. Thinking of actually making a video about why I love the Hellboy series. Dark Knight Rises spine fix was also ridiculous. You'll get no argument from me, man. Felt like his back wasn't even broken. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I don't know. It looked like whenever Bane broke his back, it just looked like he got kneed in the kidney. It didn't really look like a graphic spine breaking. But maybe that was a constraint of the fucking PG-13 rating or something. Wow, it's been an hour already. I think in about 20 minutes, guys, I'm going to cut the stream off. But I just wanted to say it's been a good stream so far. I also just wanted to relay some news. My current plans for videos. My new film analysis video is going to be for The Terminator. It's going to be like a filmmaking breakdown specifically of the police station scene, the police station like action sequence. And on top of that, there's a big thing that's happening in my life. A friend of my brother's has recently gotten a job as an editor on this documentary that is going to be narrated by Kevin Costner, of all people. And he said that he's considering hiring me on as an assistant editor. So if that happens, I'm going to be pretty heavily involved in that. And I'm not sure how free my schedule is going to be for doing videos and stuff. But I'm hoping I get that job because that sounds like the opportunity I've been waiting for a long time. So, yeah. I just wanted to tell you guys all that. Let me actually catch up with the rest of these comments. Opinions on Full Metal Alchemist. Heard good things. Haven't read or watched it. Ooh, The Dark Knight Rises. Nolan versus Robin Felt Forrest. Yeah, you can say that again. Especially with the fact that he specifically calls himself Robin. Not Dick Grayson, not Tim Drake, not Jason Todd, just Robin. Because apparently Nolan thinks the audience are a bunch of dumbasses. Could Kevin Conroy have been a good Daredevil voice actor? Yeah, I think so. I think Kevin Conroy definitely could have conveyed sort of the tortured, sort of depressed Catholic aspect of Matt Murdock very well. Hell yeah, absolutely. I think if guys like Cam Clark can voice Daredevil and like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, yeah, I think Kevin Conroy absolutely could have done the character justice. Would the Joker gas affect Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees? Probably not, because those guys are fucking immortal. Because I'm pretty sure the Joker gas is deadly. Did you prefer Master Splinter to be Yoshi's pet or Hamato Yoshi himself? I think I like it better when he was his pet, because I personally like the tragic angle of sort of Splinter trying to do right by his dead master by raising the four turtles. It is a bit weird that a guy teaches his rat how to perform martial arts. But yeah, I do like the idea of Splinter sort of trying to honor his master by raising his four turtle sons right. Editing sounds cool. Yeah, man. I'm really hoping and praying that I get that job. Good luck with the Terminator Police Station video. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You think Patrick Stewart could have been a good Mr. Freeze? You know, I never would have thought of that, but yeah, I think he could have. I've never really seen Patrick Stewart as being kind of big and physically imposing the way Mr. Freeze typically should be, but yeah, I think he could. I think he probably could have pulled it off. After Terminator 1 and 2, they should have done a prequel because 2 ends the story. So, I don't know if you guys have played that game, Terminator Resistance. I played that game. I loved it. I think Resistance is the third Terminator movie that we all wanted and deserved. Because that game's story is just fantastic. Like, it's got great characters that are believable, that you care about. And the way it ties the backstory and the lore of both the first Terminator and 2 together is so well thought out and so well executed. I feel like if you watch Terminator 1 and 2 and then you play Resistance, that game just kind of puts a really nice round little bow on like the series' entire narrative arc in a sense. Because it follows through with the themes of those movies as well. So I think Terminator Resistance is fucking awesome. I can't recommend it enough. If any of you guys haven't played it, definitely check it out. Gameplay wise, it's nothing you really haven't played before. I mean, it is fun to play. It's nothing amazing though, but the real reason to play it is the story that it tells and how it ties in with the first two movies for sure. Could a Ra's al Ghul origin movie be a big hit like Joker? Yeah, I think it possibly could, as long as it's done with passion and care, and it's not riddled with fucking cliches. Think you could make it sort of like maybe set it during like make it like an Arabian Nights type of film, kind of make it an old school Middle Eastern set adventure film, like Sinbad or something. I think that could be cool. Opinions on these films: Taxi Driver, I like it. I don't love it the way a lot of other people do, but I do enjoy it a lot. It's a mad world. Great movie. Absolutely batshit insane. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Love it. Absolutely love it. Videodrome. Also. Love it. Very fucked up, weird, bizarre movie. Has also one of the craziest endings to any film I think I've ever seen. Guy just watches himself on the TV. The TV explodes, and this big, massive guts falls out of the TV, and then he just shoots himself with this malformed, like bioorganic hand thing. Yeah, Videodrome is insane. Long live the new flesh. God. Man, what a ride of a film that was. I'll never forget that one scene, too, where he shoots that guy on that TV set, and then, like, the guy's head just starts cracking open, and you see, like, these big, gross-looking tumors just growing out of his face. Like, oh, God. Oh, man. That was so gross. Venom 3, get venomed. Okay. Who would win? The Owl Killer from Stage Fright versus Billy from Black Christmas. I would go with the Owl Killer for sure. That Owl Killer was awesome. Absolutely love that movie, by the way. Stage Fright. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Wolverine PlayStation 5 game? I'm pretty interested in it. I'm hoping that Insomniac finds a way to make it more engaging, kind of less repetitive. Because I liked the 2018 Spider-Man game that they did, but like gameplay wise, that game kind of got a little monotonous after a while. I felt like there wasn't enough depth to the combat and the traversal. I just felt like the game needed more with it needed more with all of its mechanics. And I'm hoping Spider-Man 2, the new Spider-Man 2 game, actually delivers more. That's one of several games coming out this year that I'm cautiously optimistic for. Sounds like The Last of Us with X. Wait, X-23 is going to be in that game? Really? Oh God, dude! If that's the case, then I'm not sure I want to play it. Then I'm kind of the whole Last of Us thing has really worn out its welcome. It's like, dude, I just want to be a lone badass just going out and just fucking dudes up with my claws. I don't want to have some little shit following me around, making wise ass quips, being all precocious and stuff. I really hope that's not the direction they end up going with that game. Could Bullseye make a good Red Hood villain? Yeah. Yeah, probably. I think I'd be very interested to see the interactions that Jason would have with Bullseye. I think they could be very entertaining. Do you prefer Terry McGinnis to Batman Beyond to be unrelated to Bruce Wayne or related? I honestly kind of would prefer if he was unrelated because I kind of like the idea more that anyone can be Batman. You know, that Batman's more than just one person, but hey, that's just me. Who would win, Hulk or Doomsday? I think my money would probably be on Doomsday since he's literally unkillable. So I think maybe Hulk can be killed eventually. I'm not sure. I haven't read that many Hulk comics in my day. Maybe somebody who's more knowledgeable on the Hulk can correct me on that. You know, guys, I was thinking maybe when some of these new games come out, like when Spider-Man comes out, maybe I could do a stream playing that. I would have to figure out how to make that work, though, with having a voiceover as well. But if that's something you guys would be interested in, I would like to know for sure. Opinions on Martian Manhunter. I love Martian Manhunter. I think he's a really cool, unique character. Really love the idea behind him. I would actually like to see a solo movie based on Martian Manhunter. Smallville was watered down for casual audiences? Yes, indeed it was. But then again, like, I think we're not exact. We, people like us, are not exactly the target audience for shows like Smallville. I think they're mostly kind of aimed at a female demographic. Voice over motion comics. Not sure I understand what you're asking there. Do you prefer Western cowboy films or Japanese samurai films? Hmm. That's a tough question. I think I like samurai films more than sort of older Western films. Like, if it's samurai films versus Westerns made in like the 40s and the early 50s and stuff, I would go with samurai films for sure. But if it was samurai films versus Italian Westerns, I think it would probably be split. Because there's a lot of really awesome Italian Westerns that I love. Like, I love The Great Silence. I love Django. I love the Sergio Leone films. All that stuff I would rank alongside like some of the best samurai films, like Harakiri, any of Kurosawa's work, like the Lone Wolf and Cub films, or Lady Snowblood, or any of that. What would John Constantine and Doctor Strange think of each other? I think Doctor Strange would be annoyed by Constantine smoking and drinking all the time. And I think Constantine would probably think Doctor Strange is a bit of a snob with a stick up his ass. Do you think superheroes work best in animated format? Yeah, I would probably say so. Because honestly, for animated films, you don't need anywhere near as big of a budget. So I think uh, comic book superhero adventures translate a lot more seamlessly into animation. So I think if more superhero films were animated, it might be better for the industry because then they wouldn't be shelling out. They just wouldn't be splooging like over $300 million for like 19 superhero films in 1 year and basically damn near bankrupting the entire fucking film industry. Do you think motion comics with voice actors bring stories directly? Oh, okay, I understand that now. Um, Honestly, I think I kind of prefer comics when you're reading them by yourself and you're kind of imagining your own voices for the characters. That's kind of how I feel. I'm not really big into motion comics personally. I mean, if other people like them, that's cool, but it doesn't really appeal to me. What would Darkseid and Thanos think of each other? I think Darkseid would probably be disgusted by Thanos being such a massive simp for Lady Death. And Thanos probably wouldn't give a shit about Darkseid's opinion. But I think that would probably be enough for Darkseid to view Thanos as being inferior to him. So that would probably be like the impetus for like any type of feud they engage in. Then again, Hollywood is a complete mess, especially with a lot of the films that are bombs and the writer and actresses strikes. Yep, that strike is going on right now. Something's definitely got to change in the film industry, for sure. Like they need to pay their workers better for one thing, because one thing I've researched that is happening is that a lot of writers, a lot of crew members, a lot of CG artists, and even a lot of like lesser name actors are not paid what they deserve. Like they don't get paid enough to even keep their fucking lights on because there's so much avarice in the Hollywood studios and there's so much dismissal of the actual inner workings of how this entire system works. It's like these studios are run like they're run like these big elaborate corporations where these like old out of touch like Wall Street guys, they think if they just throw enough money at something, it'll just make everything even out. Like that's not how it works. You need to be directly involved with this shit to actually see that everything happens the way it should. If a Nightwing solo live action series was made, should it be a standalone or in a connected universe? I would probably make it both. Standalone, as in, I think it should just be a Nightwing show, but connected in that I would like to see Nightwing interacting with other DC characters and, taking on major DC villains as well. Comics are basically cartoons on paper. Animation is best choice. Yeah, I think either animation or maybe get if you're if you're gonna make it live action, maybe get a director with a unique visual eye that can make an adaptation memorable. You know, like getting Sam Raimi on Spider-Man, or getting Guillermo del Toro on, to make the Hellboy films, because his visual style is unique and it does kind of bear a strong resemblance to Mignola's artwork in the books. Focus more on entertainment, less on political agenda. Absolutely agree. I heard Disney's having a yard sale with their properties they bought over the years. Yep, I've heard that as well. Yeah, because they've so incompetently managed all of their properties. A new Indiana Jones film was a train wreck. God, that movie was terrible. If a Martian Manhunter solo film was made, do you think Malefak should be the main villain? Either him or maybe the White Martians. I could see. I would mind having either or both. If the Joker was in the Marvel Universe, would he make Daredevil miserable but avoid the Punisher at the same time? I don't know if the Joker would fight Daredevil. Maybe he would instead fight someone like Moon Knight instead. I just said instead twice in a row. What if Disney sold Marvel and Star Wars? I think probably a lot of Marvel and Star Wars fans would celebrate that. Indy 5 was a bomb at the box office. Yeah, it was a bomb as a film as well. It was horrible. You know what? Speaking of speaking of actors' voices changing, let me tell you something. That opening scene in the new film, where they digitally recreated a younger Harrison Ford, like that entire illusion was shattered as the second he started talking. Because once he opened his mouth, it sounded like modern day, super crusty old Harrison Ford. Okay? Like if you watch the original Indiana Jones films, Harrison Ford sounded very different in those films to how he sounds now. So that combined with the absolutely horrid CGI, God, that entire movie was a turd. But that opening scene in particular was just god awful. Favorite Jedi and Sith? Favorite Jedi is probably Kyle Katarn. Favorite Sith? Maybe Darth Bane. Maybe Darth Bane or Darth Nihilus, maybe? Do you have an opinion on Victor Hugo or Hans Christian Andersen? I know Victor Hugo wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Miserables. A lot of other stuff. I like Victor Hugo quite a bit. I forgot Indy 5 was a thing. They talked about it for almost a decade. Yep. Yeah. Honestly, Dial of Destiny was so bad, like, it kind of made the fourth movie look good in comparison, which a lot of people didn't think was possible. Personally, I'm one of those people who I'm one of the few people who doesn't think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was like the all-time worst thing ever. I think a lot of the negative reaction to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has been ridiculous. I'm not saying it's a great movie or even a good one. I just thought it was average. But compared to Dial of Destiny, it's the fucking Godfather. Do you think Ra's al Ghul would be a good Sith? Possibly. I guess yeah, I guess he probably would cuz I mean, he's very like selfish and very power hungry, and there's definitely been some times where he kind of gives signs that he doesn't really want anyone else to succeed him. So I don't know. It's possible. Whew. All right. Oh wow, 7:36. Hey guys, I think now's a good time for me to call it a night. I think I'm going to end the stream here, but hey, it's been a great stream. I appreciate all of you showing up and keeping me engaged and asking me questions and making me talk. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys are still my subscribers and viewers. Let's see. Thought Indy 4 was okay. At least it has a satisfying ending with Indian Marion. Yep, definitely. Yeah, I agree. Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls where it should have ended. I will drink to that if I had a drink. Awesome stream. Thank you. It's definitely been a very good stream. I'm going to end it right here. You guys have a great night. Have a great Saturday. I will keep you updated as I get along in my video projects. Take care, guys.